liability on the business entities as well as their management if the associated persons of the business entities offer a bribe to a third person for the benefit of the said business entities. So who are these associated persons? They are the directors, the partners, the employees of the business entities, plus is also a person who performs services for and on behalf of the business entities. All right, so in the context of a person who performs services for and on behalf of the business entities, according to sub 7, it shall be determined by referring to all relevant circumstances. Okay, so what happened if the business entities are convicted? According to sub 2 of the section just now, it will be 10 times the bribe sum or 1 million or whichever is greater or both. Okay, so of course there is a defense mechanism provided to the business entities. Okay, what is the defense? They have to prove that they have adequate procedures to prevent the associated persons from committing the corrupt acts. So this is the guidelines on adequate procedures issued by the Minister effective on 4th December 2018 based on trust principles. All right. So what are these trust principles? All right. So basically T stands for top level commitment. R stands for risk assessment. U undertake control measures, okay, which includes having policies and procedures as well as the due diligence process. S stands for systematic review, monitoring and enforcement, and also training and communication, okay, where the program must be communicated well enough to the employees. All right. So the aims and objective of this paper is to examine the categories of associated persons and the extent of the involvement of the associated persons that give rise to the liability of business entities. So in this aspect, references are made to UK and US laws for comparison study and insights. Why UK and US laws are chosen? Because in the first place, Section 17 capital A, okay, basically is modeled after the UK and US laws. Okay, the UK laws, Section 7 of the UK Bribery Act 2010, and US laws, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act 1977. All right, so the methodology, all right, it is a doctrinal, which is library-based research as well as comparative approach. Okay, so who are these associated persons? Okay, if you look at the statute as well as the guidelines, these persons can be the nominee or employee of the business entities, can be the managers, can be the organization where the person or his nominee is controlling the business. It can also be any corporation within the definition of Companies Act 2016, where this person, okay, or his nominee is a director in charge of the business affairs of the company, and they hold minimum 30% of the total issued share of the corporation. And also the trustee of any trust, where the total value of assets amount at least 20% of the total value of the assets of trust. So when we look at the statute, we can see clearly associated persons comprise directors. Directors, when we look at the definition in the Companies Act 2016, it consists of not only the directors as basically registered with SSM, the Companies Commission of Malaysia, but also include directors like shadow directors or alternate directors, or de facto directors, partners, employees. When we look at cases established in UK and US, we can see associated persons also include subsidiaries and also these persons, those who work in the organization as well as outside the organization. So you have the brokers, the lawyers, the intermediaries, the third-party distribution, the joint venture entity, and the foreign tax advisor, so on and so forth. The list goes on and on. So what are the challenges? So the challenges to identification of the associate persons is firstly, the challenges of the identification or attribution principle. Okay, thank you, Prof. All right. Second one, the definition of associate person is, not exhaustive, as well as what happened in borderline cases. All right, what will the court decide? Okay, so there are 6 key takeaways from my paper. The first one is that the test of associated persons is not exhaustive. Secondly, it is a prerequisite for companies to have adequate procedures and compliance program. and it is their responsibilities to enforce strictly the anti-corruption policy. Even though with strict anti-corruption policy, corporate prevention policies can easily be defeated by corporate culture, as evidenced in the 2020 Airbus SE case in UK. All right. Fifthly, the identification or attribution principle. Okay, the issue is to what extent Section 17 capital A be applied to an individual. Okay. Lastly, the role of the court. The court is the one to assess if there are proper procedures or not. Okay. Ultimately, it's the court who will decide, as per the case of Skansen Interest Limited UK case, where the court held that even though there are extensive policies, but then there is no evidence that it is communicated well to the employees. All right, so this is one example of third-party guidelines here. Abbott US, a healthcare company. So you can see their third-party guideline here. In short, Abbott expects third parties to comply with these guidelines when working on behalf of Abbott US. All right. So among others, they have this third-party meeting support. What they are going to do? There's no gift policy. All right. What else? There are charitable organized contributions. What is basically meant by that? Yeah. Whether facilitation payments are allowed or not. All right. So in conclusion, all right. So the UK and US experience may assist us, yeah, in understanding the seriousness of Section 17 capital A. Future research may embark on qualitative methodologies to examine the impact of associated persons on business entities. Even though the companies have anti-corruption policies, there's no guarantee that they, can control corruption. Yeah, they may not be able to do that. So for business sustainability purposes, they have to demonstrate the availability of the appropriate procedures mechanism and adherence to the same, as well as develop, inculcate culture of compliance. All right, thank you. That's all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Norazlina, for that timely and for that time-conscious presentation. And we appreciate what you have presented. You talked about making reference to the UK and US case studies. Well, did you consider things about, did you consider issues of culture? For example, the way people show hospitality, in the different cultures. For example, what's called hospitality in some cultures may actually amount to corruption in other places. Are there such issues that that are part of the consideration in this paper?
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much for your question. Indeed, hospitality also is basically an issue, whether it amounts to corporate corruption or really hospitality issue. Yeah, because it is part of culture actually, like, in Chinese culture, it is, normal for them to give ampao. Okay, so what is the meaning of hospitality in the context of Malaysian situation? Yeah, so I actually have looked at cases. There is no case law yet in Malaysia pertaining to hospitality. Okay, but when we look at cases in US and in UK, they have extensive guide on what is hospitality, which is absent in our Malaysian situation. So yes, yeah, actually, Prof, I have, just issued one paper on corporate austerity and corporate corruption. Yes, and I address on that.
Okay, so it is very pertinent. So it is very important to look at this relative to what constitutes corruption. Like you rightly mentioned, you said all the intermediaries have not been mentioned. I wonder whether it is possible to look at, because intermediaries might also be different, might also operate in different ways, in different cultures. I think we also need to look at that in the Malaysian sector, whether there are other types of intermediaries. There are intermediaries everywhere, even for marriage proposals. So even for businesses, there can be varieties of intermediaries. And I think this might help us to illuminate more, the aspects of corruption. So
thank you very much, Prof, for your suggestion. Yes.
Yes. What is?
That's a good point indeed.
Right.
All right. Is that the?
My co-author. Yes.
I want the co-author from Edinburgh to say something.
Thank you, Azrina. That was a very good presentation indeed. Yes, Prof. In fact, the paper that Azrina and the team has prepared is basically looking at a prospect of a new business model for corporate entities to be more aware of their responsibilities. And if you look at the second part of the section of the law, it is quite broad, where the court is entitled to look at circumstances and venues where, you know, you're not limited to directors and employers, but any persons who are associated and work within and with the mandate of the company would be liable. And therefore, I guess fighting or combating against corruptions is extremely important in order to have a good competitive market, particularly now we're going towards digital economy. And as Azrina has rightly said, that it is important to look, and I think Prof already highlight also, that you have to look at the culture. And perhaps now the market players will understand that, you know, simply quoting a culture or hiding before a culture will not save them from the bribery offense. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very good presentation. I want other presenters to ask questions or contribute to this paper. You know, I don't know what viewpoint you want to give to it, but are there any contributions or questions for the presenters? Is someone speaking there? You're welcome, Mr. Adib. You want to make a contribution? Are there any other questions from the audience? If there are no other questions, I also observe that you don't have case studies of maybe case study of cases from Malaysia. All right, thank you for that presentation. I think our second presenter is ready. That's Dr. Adam.
Hi,
is Dr. Adam there?
Yeah, how are you?
Oh, okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
You have 10 minutes to present.
Okay, thank you. So Assalamualaikum and good evening and good morning to you, to Prof. Babatunde. So I'm Adam Arudewan from Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. The topic of my research today is determining controllability level of the project issues in Malaysia landscape architecture project. Okay, we start with the introductions. All right. So this paper intent will start because of the current scenario we face in Malaysia. So Malaysia landscape architecture project frequently face several difficulties, right? So this difficulty become a risk that which is potentially become a project risk in the future, affecting the project performances, right? So the gap, earlier observation found that landscape architect as a project practitioner, as a project manager for this landscape architecture project, they can anticipate or they can predict this project issue beforehand, right? But under the gap, regardless their ability to predict this project, is found out that the issue still occurred because of the result of an ineffective way of them to manage the issue they predicted earlier, right? Failure to anticipate this, manage these project issues will harm the project objective. And also these issues of accountability directly related to the Malaysian landscape architecture project will not receive a little attention enough in features. All right. So let's go to the needs. All right. The challenges must be anticipated and addressed before it's harming the project objective. But due to the nature of the landscape architecture project is viewed as a dynamic with the subjective the outcome, and it's a clear and various challenges. Right? So these challenges will potentially become an issue for the project in the future. Right? So hence, understanding the controversity of a current project issues is critical for the project practitioner to plan necessary actions and to manage this, to control these project issues in the future endeavor. Right? So this study was aimed to examine the project issues and the level of the controversy in Malaysia landscape architecture project. Right? So the objective is outlined here is to document the project issues that occurred. Second, to evaluate the ability of the predict project issues that occurred. Third, to determine the action taken in address the predicted project issues. And lastly, to investigate the potential strategy that could be used to prevent the project issues from occurring again. All right, next. Okay, under literature review, project issues defined as any situation or event that will harm the project ability to accomplish its objective. Right? So it consists of a disconnect between the project output and the stakeholder expectations. Right? So stakeholder including project parties impacted by the project outcome, including the serving of professional landscape organizations. Right? So under project issue at risk, issue should not be confused with the risk, which but both of them are relatable. So according to the Project Management Institute 2017, it says that unmanaged threat, or we call it a negative risk, may result to the issues or problem. So one cause can lead to the single risk, which could have another effect. Truly, in reality, is a considerably more complex itself. Right? So in the picture, in the diagram here, there's a risk meta language offer a practical way to distinguish between a risk, a cause, and the effect. We call it a project issues. All right. So to conclude, project issues are controllable in order for them to avoid them. So what they can do is generally they need to predict the issues beforehand to manage it and treat it well in a systematically approach way. So the project manager can take an effective action if they anticipate the issues and they're certain to arise the lesson learned effectively with the effective strategy. All right. We move to the second, which is a methodology. Exploratory case study was engaged in this study as a study research methodology, whereby this study takes on a 4-stage procedure. All right. So the first procedure is a preliminary study, whereby it's examine the background of the study, the needs, that identify the gap, and draft out the aims. On the second procedure, data was collected via semi-structured interview with 24 professional landscape architect in a region of Klang Valley, which is an open-ended question was pre-tested and asked in a form of idea memoir. So registered interview audio, then project document was transcribed into a text, documented and organized using a research software such like Atlas TI, Atlas 4.8.4. Right? On a third procedure, a content analysis identify and describe the course category and themes. And beside that, a thematic analysis was used to interpret and draw the thematic maps between the themes. And the analysis including exploring the relationship between the categories and also the theme, and looking at pattern and map the interpretation of the end of the result. And the fourth and the last procedure is to finding interpretation and report to discuss the controversity of the project issues and the conclusion draw from the goal and reach to the answers. So this 24 interview was responding based on a predetermined sampling criteria and from the landscape architecture organizations. All right. So you move to the finding. All right. The first finding occurred project issues. All right. So the study coded 79 project issues identified and grouped them into 6 affected project objectives, and identify the issues that affecting a business objective are the most prominent happening in the landscape architecture project. On the second finding, which is the predictability of occurred project issues, interviewer was questioned about the ability to predict all these 79 issues that occurred during their project. And the result shows that they can be classified into 2 teams, which is either they can predict the issues earlier on or there's unpredicted. We call it as surprises. Right, so found out the majority, 89% or equivalent to 70 issues, project issues was predicted based on their project manager experience and their ability to forecast, which is generally the issues is somewhere hovering on the technical issues, which is a more objectified and.
Sorry, Dr. Adam, you have
Yes?
2 minutes more.
2
You
minutes,
have
okay.
2 minutes more, 2 minutes.
All right, sure, I will make it fast. So the third finding is a treatment action whereby the predicted project issues. So the interview was asked out of the 70 project issues they are predicted, found out the majority, 59% of the predicted issue, they didn't take any action on it. All right. Then lastly, number 4, when they're asking what are the suggested treatment action they could do to manage these predicted project issues, subsequently, their respond in a contradictory way, whereby their responses was grouped into 4 common treatment strategy, which is the avoid, mitigate, transfer, accept the issues. All right. So come to the discussion. All right, I will conclude it. So the finding discovered that 89% of the project issue occurred was predicted in advance. And from the total predicted project issues, majority 59 issues was not addressed and doing nothing about it. So only 11% addressed immediately, which is they're supposed to be a more effective way. So contrarily, the project ability to suggest effective treatment strategy to each of the project issues, which is the action is different with what they do it before. Right. So the finding demonstrate that the project ability to predict the project issues and suggest a practical solution. However, project issues continue to arise and due to the lack to respond to the predicted project issues despite the treatment actions. Right. So to conclude, landscape architecture projects are controllable by the ability to predict and resolve the project issues. So project ability to treat the project issues in advance by the examining the ability to predict and treat the issues with the effective treatment. But despite the ability, predicted project issues was not addressed, not take any action. So this allowed to occur, and this is why the reason the issues take an impact and compromise the project objective. So to that, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Adib, for that presentation. Dr. Adam, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the title is about determining controllability. I'm curious about that term. I hope other presenters are going to be able to ask questions from you on this presentation. While they are thinking about what to ask, let me just ask something. This term or this concept, controllability, has it been used widely in literature earlier?
Sorry, the question again?
Yes, I want to know whether this term, this concept, controllability, has been used widely in literature, or it's just your...
Okay, in the literature, they call it controllability is a suggestion from the field writings on the field approach, where they talk about controllability is about how you control the matter event from the beginning, how you take action on it, and how you avoid it. In terms of the project management institute under project management knowledge. Okay,
so project management is already a concept that's known in literature. All right. I noticed you used a qualitative approach.
I used a qualitative.
That is, you did interview, because I saw you did semantic and content analysis.
Okay, I understand that, because under qualitative, my intention of the research is explorative, to find how their action towards some of the project issues. So you start with the qualitative explorative to team different action of these projects. All right. So beside from there, then generally the table is just to show we call it the percentage of each action they take. But okay, this start with the exploratory as a qualitative approach, which is I don't have a predetermined questionnaire. We don't have a standard questionnaire to ask them. It's just an open-ended question. Ask them and let them respond. So from there, I try to draw these coded some of the information, categorize it, and team it.
Okay, so this is just explorative for now.
Yeah, correct. It's explorative because it's very less information we get from the literature regarding on a project portability in Malaysia in the landscape architectural scopes.
All right. So how are you taking this research to the next level?
So the next level, of course, as this research suggests, a study need to be done is why the project do not do nothing on the issues they found out early on. What's hindering them? Secondly, I strongly suggest to have a study on the risk management. It's one of the systematic and approach way to manage this issue beforehand. All right. So that is my suggestion for the future studies.
Okay, I notice you defined risk as a future possible event.
Correct.
So at what stage of landscape projects won't they be accounting for risk right from the design or even the pre-design phase?
Right. So optimistically, I mean, most effective way to manage to identify the risk as early as a project. We call it in the project life cycle during the initiation stage. But they should identify from the day one when they engage into project cycle. But to be more effective and more taking on the type of risk they find is on during the planning periods, whereby that's where they can define their scope, they define their time, define the budget, the quality they expected to achieve during the time. Because when you're doing during the time, this is where that you can do a lot of changes. They able to monitor, change the resources of the project to cater some of the risk they will take. Later then will be they doing it, manage it during construction period or during a procurement period, which is a way too late to any changes happening.
All right. When you listed your stakeholders on a project,
okay,
I noticed that the user or the client wasn't prominent. Then when I'm just thinking, when you want to take this study to the next level, because now you interviewed mostly landscape professionals.
Okay, correct.
So are you going to be able to involve the other stakeholders?
Of course, definitely. For my study, it's narrowed down to specifically in the context of landscape architecturing. And of course, in the future, potentially, we need to widen up this study to the level, to the involving, to the perspective of the stakeholder, which is like you say, a user, or maybe a client perspective as well. All right. Okay. But this study for timing is the narrow specifically on the perspective of landscape architect, which is leading this landscape project. Because many studies will be conducted with in the context of this the entire construction, which is involving the engineering, involving on the stakeholder like the users or the clients, but not specifically in the perspective on the landscape architect.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Dr. Adam.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have contributions from the audience. What do we think about the controllability of the landscape projects in Malaysia as presented by Dr. Adam? Are there contributions, maybe suggestions for them?
Oh, definitely. Okay. I talked about in the bigger pictures. The contribution this is a landscape architecturing. They don't really have a structure project management, a systematic project management. I mean, they don't have a detailed study on a risk management. Sorry about that.
All right. Are there any other contributions or questions? All right, thank you very much, Dr. Adam.
Thank you.
I think we're going to have to move to our third presentation, which is by Associate Prof. Dr. Razia, Household Accounting, a case study of Johor State. If the presenter is there, to be nice to...
Hi, Dr. Babatunde. Proceed to Dr. Alia, Associate Professor Dr. Alia, because Dr. Reza and Dr. Ubasi is not around.
Oh, it's not around.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll take, is the next presenter around then? Dr. Alia. If you are there, please share your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the presentation is on the significant impact of home pocket garden on the quality of life during the pandemic era. Okay. During the pandemic era. Who is presenting, please?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And
okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. And,
good.
And good afternoon to Honorable
Yes, good
Senate.
afternoon.
Hope everyone is still awake, or I would hope I can be I can present within the time limit. I'm Dr. Alia Nazafira Sanusi, representing my fellow co-authors, Dr. Bagida Abdullah, Dr. Aida Kasuma, Dr. Dinat Begum Yusuf, and Dr. Naim Asif from International Islamic University Department of Architecture, and also our international co-author, Dr. Rosniza Uthman from Prince Mughrin bin Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia. And the topic of...
Is Dr. Othman around?
She apologized because she's having class at the moment until 4 p.m. I mean until 9 p.m. Malaysia time. So over there is noon, and she finished her class at 4 p.m. Saudi time.
All right, let's continue then.
Okay, so the topic of our study is the significant impact of home pocket gardens on the quality of life during the pandemic era. Okay, so the current COVID-19 health crisis is actually affecting all of us. It's affecting physical well-being, but also psychological. And this is one of the reasons being because during the movement control order, most of the daily activities take place at home, which limits the escape space to the outdoor open space to within their home compound. Before the COVID-19 pandemic era, there's a study on terrace houses where the home residents kept extending their build-up area to fulfill the residents' needs and satisfaction indoors, ignoring the fact of the importance of the outdoor open spaces. But now, so before the pandemic, the outdoor open space is only a transit for them to get into the car and go somewhere else outdoor. But now, because due to the lockdown, people are starting to appreciate the little space outdoor of their home. So Okay, and there's a study in 2020, recent study, during the COVID pandemic era, during the lockdown period. The study finds that poor housing, poor views, and lack of green areas are factors affecting the increasing risk of developing depression symptoms during the movement control order. There has been guidelines for green pockets in buildings in Malaysia. Under the UBBL in 2006 14th edition, it stated there that the outdoors open space should not be less than 1/3 of the built-on area of the building. And also our former Prime Minister of Malaysia, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, came up with the concept of a city in a park, which actually relates to building any types of buildings, even residential. And this actually helps the planning standard guidelines for open spaces and recreation created. This is to assist local authorities in implementing green open spaces in their town planning and building projects. The objective of our study is to identify the type of home pocket gardens used in homes and to evaluate the significant impact of home pocket gardens on the quality of life during the pandemic era. This responded to the United Nations SDG goals, number 2, which is zero hunger, number 3, which is good health and mental well-being, and number 11, which is the sustainable cities and communities. Okay, first of all, we have to understand what is the concept of quality of life. In 1984, it was defined as the degree to which the experience of an individual's life satisfies the individual's wants and needs in both physical and psychological. In 1989, Fisher came up with a pyramid of 3 types of comfort. Physical comfort being at the bottom of the pyramid, functional comfort, and at the top of the pyramid is actually the psychological comfort. There are various indicators used in measuring quality of life around the globe. In 1993, in Sweden, which is an example of a developed country, there are 3 indicators of measuring quality of life, which is having, which relates to personal needs and materials. The second one is loving, which relates to social relationship with other people. And the third one is being, which is the participation of self-participation and personal growth and relation towards nature. And in Jordan, quite recently, in 2009, came up with a study on the domains that affecting quality of life. And this is a country, is as an example of a developing country as compared to the previous one, the developed country. So in conclusion, the domains that most affecting quality of life in Oman is environment, health, housing, and economy. And there are also studies in Malaysia that in 2017, it stated that the 4 principles that influence the residents' level of well-being is appropriate landscaping. I mean, one of the 4 principles. And in 2016, a study finds that residents facing green areas are the most satisfied with their living conditions. And in 2021, which is quite recent, in Petaling Jaya, the residents find nature helps them achieve psychological comfort. And in Barcelona, gardening activities were proposed for mental health disorders residents on urban rooftop gardens, where gardening benefits their mental well-being. And it is also associated with personal development and emotional well-being. Gardening activities provide social inclusion and the sense of purpose. Therefore, it gives positive impact on their quality of life. And whereas in Sri Lanka, home gardening fulfills at least 1 or 2 daily nutrition from their vegetable products. And the garden activities release is a stress relief. Oops. and healthy family interactions and social unity during COVID-19 pandemic. And in Oman, it was found that the residents that were motivated to do gardening for various reasons, for aesthetic purposes, natural shading, pastime activities, and food source. So this is our research methodology. We came up with two objectives. First, to find the type of home pocket gardens used in the homes, and second, to evaluate the...
Excuse me, Dr. Leah, yeah? You have 3 minutes more.
Okay. All right, so I will try to speed up. We studied in 3 housing areas around Klang Valley, one in Gombak, and one in Bukit Antarabangsa, and one in Bangsa. And the house topologies is all landed houses. The surveys uses 5 Likert scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree, and 30 residents has responded to our survey, which is about 10.3% of the total population of the residents. And the findings, about 63% of the residents has home pocket garden. And 4 doesn't have any, but wanting to have to start one. And okay, most of the home pocket gardens are located at the front yard, and most most of the residents have quite small size, about 1 meter squared to 3 meters squared. There are 12 types of home pocket gardens, and these are the example. There is a house with a fruit tree, a small potted plant, and also hydroponic. And this is an example of an integration between the home pocket gardens with family spaces. Okay, most of the respondents that's not satisfied with the size of the home pocket garden. Okay, so the home pocket garden enhance food security, but not really the economic growth. It gives impact to the sustainable cities and communities. Majority agree that it gives impact to the good health. And majority feels that they would like to encourage their neighbors to get involved in HPG. In conclusion, the housing community has ventured into various types of home pocket gardens. There are 12 different types of HPG, which includes the installation of hydroponics and rooftop gardens within the limited open space area. The study concluded that HPG gives a significantly positive impact on the quality of life in terms of food security, good health and well-being, and healthy social relationships. Further studies should take place in the development of HPG. There should be architectural intervention in providing HPG-friendly housing design and planning. HPG to be developed into a community vegetable garden to foster better relationships among the community. Collaboration and transfer of knowledge on home pocket garden among neighbors should be encouraged. Knowing what the neighbors grow, the techniques, and the technology will help the sustainability of the gardens. The knowledge of transfer enables them to obtain information on the latest technologies and adopt new skills such as growing in hydroponics. And yeah, thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Aliyah, for that very inspiring presentation on home pocket garden, on quality of life. So it's very interesting. I hope that the other participants are ready to make contribution to this presentation. I noticed that okay, you had 3 sample areas. How did you choose them? How did you choose the sample areas?
Okay, we tried to locate, actually I meant to put the map on the slide, but actually one is on the KL East side, and one is on the KL South side, and the other one is slightly to the east north.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
Like it covers the whole different parts of the Kuala Lumpur and Selangor.
Yeah, I was just thinking, does it have anything to do with the levels of income that the occupants have? Did you choose maybe a high density area, a low density area, or is it related to density or to the level of income?
It's more to the level of income. First of all, we choose the area with landed houses with a close-knit community that has good interaction among each other, and they are actually in the suburbs area, not very far from Kuala Lumpur city center. And there are, I think, the income, in terms of income, also we look into it. It's middle to high income residential.
All right.
The reason why we chose middle to high income is because before the pandemic, they had the option to go out to travel, and what happens when they are locked down, and what happens when the money is not the main contributor of their quality of life.
Okay. I was just thinking that maybe for greater influence, it would be good to examine maybe some public housing that's also designed for different income groups. So we can really know the effect of this home pocket garden on the different income groups. I have a feeling you chose it was a purposive sample, of places that already have home pocket garden. And like you said, it might be related to the middle and the high income people. Then I didn't see, there were no presentation of the roof garden that you mentioned.
There is in the chart here, but I don't have the picture of it. Actually, one of the house in Taman Bukit Bandaraya, it was the winner of PAM Award 2020. The planter box house. So one of the residents said that house has a lot of rooftop gardens at all.
Okay,
and,
that's
over here there is I think a roof garden about 8%.
All right, about 8%.
It's quite interesting. Sorry?
When you check the laws of that talks about open spaces.
Yes.
You are studying home gardens.
Yeah.
Home pocket garden. The law that talks about 30% being left as open space, does it have to do with just setbacks? Maybe setback from the road, setback from the fence, and the likes. Does it include maybe having like a courtyard?
Oh. It does include the setback. I mean, the 30% does include the setback, but sometimes like a big landed house, the setback become a little percentage of the house. So like 3 meters and 6 meters is only like a few percentage. So UBBL came up with the proper percentage, which is actually inclusive of the setback. Yeah, so I mean, for small houses, the setback actually plays a role that that impose them to have a big percentage of the open space because of the small size of the land. But for a bungalow where they have a big land, so the 3 meters setback and the 6 meters setback is just a few percentage of the land, the total land area.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. So what's the next level for this study?
We would like to study on high-rise residential, or there are two directions here in response. Looking at the response, most of them wanted to have like community garden and some trainings for their community. So that's one direction to go to. But that is more on landscape architecture because we're in architecture department, so we would like to see maybe on the residential, on the high-rise residential area. Or perhaps can collaborate with the landscape architect department.
Okay, I see in this slide that you have most dominant motivation. So what's the most dominant motivation for them to have home pocket gardens? Okay.
Oh, this one is in Oman.
Okay, that's in Oman. Yeah. I wonder whether people are actually conscious of the motivation for health.
Yes, from the survey, the respondents, they do, if you look at the chart, sorry about the animation.
Okay.
It's SDG 3, Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which to do with health and well-being, meaning the psychological well-being. Not this one. This one. The majority of them find that, oh no, not this one, sorry. The stress relief activities. So majority finds it part of the stress relief activities.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Aliyah.
Thank you
for that presentation. Are there any other contributions? Any other contributions from the audience and other participants? If there are no other contributions, let's have the fifth presenter ready. No, Azeda. If there are no other contributions.
Prof, Dr. Babatunde, I think proceed to Dr. Wana Azlina Wanismaya. Azia.
It's okay.
No? Okay. Sorry. Okay.
It's okay. Alright.
Tak apa. Proceed. I panggil tadi tak ada. Okay. Proceed to Nur Azida Muhammad Nur. Dr. Babatunde.
Alright.
Okay. That means that Azeda is around.
Yes. Okay. Will you see my slide?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I can see that you have started to share your screen. Okay.
Okay.
It can be seen now. Can everybody else see this slide? A systematic literature review, fuel subsidy, and consumer environmental awareness in urban road transport.
All right. Okay.
So Azeda is presenting. Do you have your international collaborator here?
No, I don't have international collaboration. I only have Malaysian outlets only. Okay.
All right. You have 10 minutes to present. You can start.
First of all, good afternoon to Prof. Baba and all fellow people. So today, my name is Nur Azida, a master student from Universiti Teknologi MARA, Malaysia. So here I would like to present my systematic literature review on fuel subsidy and consumer and environmental awareness in urban road transport. So let us jump right into the presentation, shall we? Okay, the introduction. The transportation sector nowadays is seen as a critical enabler of the country's economic growth and development. It aided the socio-economic benefit and also wide development in both rural and urban areas. This caused the rapid growth in road transport sector. Unfortunately, the rapid growth in transportation sector might increase the carbon emissions and also greenhouse gas emissions. These emissions has direct, indirect, and cumulative impact. Direct impact is direct that we get from the environmental degradation such as noise, Indirect is the result from the direct impact, which is lung problem or health problem. And lastly, cumulative impact is the combination of direct and indirect impact. It usually unpredictable, such as climate change. So, the issues of road transport emission actually caught attention of government, academicians, public, industries, and also they realized that in order to mitigate the carbon emissions, consumer environmental awareness is an important determinant. Since the choice of mode transport is depend on their level of awareness, whether they would like to choose environmentally friendly vehicles or not. Okay, for your information, environmental awareness consists of 4 elements. First of all, environmental attitude, environmental concern, environmental knowledge, and also behavioral intention. Alright, I would like to say in the transportation sector, government provide fuel subsidy each and every country, but the structure may be different across countries. However, the fuel subsidy basically designed to lower the cost of the fuel, increase the welfare, as well as improve the relationship between government and also the citizen. Even though we say that fuel subsidy gives benefits, we can see that it actually has an adverse impact on the environment, which accelerate climate change. Because there will be the existence of overconsumption of fuel since the price is much more lower, and also there will be barriers for people to invest more in environmentally friendly energy. Therefore, consumers who have high environmental awareness is necessary to mitigate this adverse impact on the fuel subsidy. Thus, this study would like to explore fuel subsidy and environmental awareness among consumers in urban road transport. So the methodology use the SLR, adopt transparent reporting of systematic review and meta-analysis, known as PRISMA, to search, filter, select, and analyze the research question of the articles. The database that we use is Corpus and Web of Science in searching relevant literature for the study. In this research, only one objective that we developed, which is exploring fuel subsidy and environmental awareness among public in urban road transport. Okay, initially, the key find terms we use is fuel subsidy and environmental awareness. But only 23 articles related found, which is very limited topic area where majority of it discuss on the reform of the fuel subsidy. Okay. Therefore, we broaden the fuel subsidy definition, not only concentrating on the fuel subsidy or fossil fuel subsidy, whereby other type of subsidy, for example, green subsidy, low carbon subsidy, end of life vehicle subsidy, and electric vehicle subsidy are acceptable. So the new key terms that we use in searching is subsidy and environmental awareness. Resulted, we have 47 manuscripts gained. Okay, this is a summary, a flow diagram of our research.
Azinoa.
Please mute yourself if you are not presenting. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, let me proceed. Okay, I will share a bit about the flow diagram. Okay, in the screening process, we eliminate 4 duplicate papers and 1 sources from book. During the actual analysis, only journal articles and conference paper are accepted, not book, and all the articles must be in English. As mentioned earlier, the study only focused on the subsidy and environmental awareness, which other paper that out of scope will be eliminated too, such as farmland, agricultural, and green supply chain. So, of these 29 articles for the systematic literature review process. findings, from the findings, the study revealed that there are 3 themes that can be developed. First, eco-friendly vehicles. Second theme, green products, which is the most discussed topic in this study. Optimal tax, subsidy mechanism. Okay, as we can, from the findings, we can see that subsidy and environmental awareness has the highest number of publication in year 2020. And it's actually growing from 2019 to 2020, as we can see that the researcher have interest in doing this research. The data pertaining only available from 2015 until 2020. Geographically, the study mostly found from China, followed by United States and European. All of the 13 publications that we gain, mostly the analysis used is quantitative research analysis. Let's jump into the discussion. The study found that the transportation sector recorded the second largest share of emissions in developing countries. The subsidy provided by government are varied, and it is accordance with the required by the market and society, including for environmental protection. For example, subsidizing electric vehicles and subsidizing end-of-life vehicles. Okay, in this current era, we can see that the growth of motor vehicles. So, meaning that end-of-life vehicles activity will be increased in future. We see that end-of-life vehicles is one way to mitigate the carbon emissions and to maintain sustainability. The total subsidy that actually invests by the government for end-of-life vehicles actually influenced by the consumer environmental awareness. If there is high consumer environmental awareness, government should not spend high on the subsidy. This is because that person who have high level of environmental awareness willing to do anything to preserve the environment.
Azeda, you have 2 minutes more.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Next, subsidizing green products help to increase the intention to purchase green products. Okay. High level of green products, as we know, will emit less emissions, but the cost of production is high. However, consumers have environmentally conscious, as I said just now, are willing to pay higher price for more eco-friendly products. Green subsidy allocation to consumer is beneficial when there is low number of potential green consumer. However, when the potential green consumer is higher, the subsidy must be given to the manufacturer, which is more relevant. Okay, higher environmental awareness can contribute by underlying factors, such as discussed extensively in theory planning behavior. And also, consumer environmental awareness is important in the influencing of green purchase because, okay, as we can see, the previous researcher, 2 of them agree that yes, environmental awareness influence the green purchase, but the last authors said that environmental awareness did not significantly influence to purchase electric vehicles. This is because of the money constraint. So in this market, in this electric vehicle market, actually government have to provide subsidy so that it will influence the consumer that have high environmental awareness to purchase green vehicle. So the conclusion, in general, environmental awareness has heavily discussed in the literature, but not fuel subsidy with environmental awareness. The established keyword of green subsidy and environmental awareness should be measured from various angles. Okay, hence we should pay great attention to increase environmental awareness to protect the environment. So there are 2 limitations of the study. First, employ specific key terms of the subsidy and environmental awareness in the study, which resulted to be very limited. The study needs to cover the public transportation services provided in the city, which is interesting to study. For the future research, it's recommended to capture the limitations, undertaking a different type of review such as scoping or content analysis to address the knowledge gap on consumer environmental awareness in various markets that are not only limited on the transportation sector. Lastly, factors associated with consumer environmental awareness should be paid attention. My last slide will be implication of the study. The foregoing result imply the provided subsidy will have beneficial impact on the climate change and society. Therefore, consumer environmental awareness is important to preserve the environment. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Azeda, for that presentation that that reflects the mood of the moment about climate change and environmental consciousness, as reflected in the last COP, the conference in Glasgow, Scotland, about environmental consciousness, which is so important to our world these days. I just, I hope other participants have questions for you, but I'd like to, you didn't read, in the study, there wasn't any link to other modes of transport. Apart from, is it because you're just searching for about fuel subsidy?
I'm sorry? I couldn't, your voice isn't clear.
Okay, you didn't understand that.
Okay.
Okay, are you hearing me clearly now?
Okay, all right, yes.
Yes, what I'm saying is that you talked about fuel subsidy.
Yes.
And you didn't talk about the modes of transport that use fuel.
Okay.
And whether these modes of transport that use fuel influence the level of awareness or has implications or affects the level of awareness of the users or of your subjects. That is from literature.
Okay.
Is there literature that addressed that?
Actually, the mode of transport is general, but when we discuss about the fuel subsidy, most of the literature will relate with the private vehicles, whereby when the fuel subsidy, the number of fuel subsidy given by the government increase, they tend to use more private vehicles that will cause the emissions. So, consumer who have high environmental awareness maybe not affected by this fuel subsidy given by the government, and they will pursue with using the more environmentally transport, such as public transport or maybe electric vehicles.
Okay. Okay, so that means that in literature, it's mostly related to whether people use private vehicles or they use public transport.
Private vehicles
and then the type of vehicle that they also buy. Maybe electric vehicles.
Like the transportation mode in the study is quite general. So we see the fuel subsidies from the various aspects, which is from the private vehicles and what it do harms to the environment, and we see the public transportation. We see that people have high environmental awareness will use the public transportation even though there is the fuel subsidy provide. Or people who have high environmental awareness will buy electric vehicle, even it is quite pricey because of their belief in environment.
Okay, we'll like. Okay, your part of your findings. One of the literature said using electric vehicles does not have anything to do with awareness of environmental awareness. That's one of the findings. One of the literature said so.
One of the literature say, because in this part for this particular researcher, they said that consumer environmental awareness did not significantly influence the purchase of electric vehicle. This is due to the financial constraint. As we know, green products emit less emissions, but the cost of the production itself is quite high. So that people who have environmental awareness, they tend to conserve the environment by doing other activities such as recycling. However, from the study found that actually they have the interest in purchasing electric vehicles, but due to the financial constraint. So that is why the government if the government give the subsidy to electric vehicle market, will be more rational. It will influence the consumer who have high environmental awareness to purchase electric vehicles.
Okay, that's interesting. Is one subsidy for another subsidy, while avoiding fuel subsidy, then you can now give another subsidy for people to purchase electric vehicles. You know, all right, that's an interesting finding. I can see that Associate Professor Dr. Wan Lisa has raised up the hand. Can we listen to your contribution, please?
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Azi, I thought this is a very interesting research by you at this stage, and I think the transportation sectors are very important. It is extremely interesting because you're finding, you said the environment awareness is actually the best key to manage this problem. And you mentioned about subsidy. I hope I'll have more research from you with regard subsidies to the people who are in B40 in Malaysia, and how that will help, because I believe from the literature, subsidy alone will not be a good factor or variables to counter this particular matter, or the SDGs for environment. Am I right, Ms. Azi? Because you can't depend on government subsidy alone to encourage people to be more environmental friendly. I hope you will see more about your fuel subsidies, and I think this is an extreme interesting area. If you could focus more on how the subsidies can be managed and perhaps be catered to to help others too. And I don't believe that we should give subsidy to buy electric car though. That's the part that I don't think I'm game with you. Thank you, Aziz.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, that's an interesting contribution and a suggestion for you. So where do you go from this literature review?
Well,
what do you...
From this literature review, as mentioned by Prof. Dr. Wan, okay, we need to look at the fuel subsidy extensively for each and every level of society in the country, so that as we know that maybe subsidy is not the only one that can help people to to buy electric vehicles or to use electric vehicles. Okay, so it is important to look at the fuel subsidy deeply, so that we can identify what actually the best way to mitigate the carbon emission caused by the road transport sector.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much,
Thank you too, Prof.
Ms. Azeda, for that presentation. So we will go to the next presenter, Dr. Wan. Dr. Wan. Is Dr. Wan there?
Can I have a question while waiting for Dr. Wan?
Is Dr. Wan there? If Dr. Wan is not there, can we take the next presentation?
Yeah, Prof.
Yes.
Prof, there's a question from Dr. Marni. Here, Dr. Marni.
Hello, Prof.
Okay, hello.
Sorry, while waiting for Dr. Wan, I have one question for the research presenter. Okay, I'm interested to know about the detailed methodology, because recently I also tried to do SLR. I think it's quite difficult So I would like to know how she get the information. Is she using strings? Because just now it's quite brief on the methodology.
Okay,
that's all my question. Thank you.
Okay, is that a contribution to the earlier paper?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. Is Azieda there? Okay, Azieda is no longer with us. Yeah. Okay, what was the question?
Dr. Mazli dah tanya belum? Dah tanya ke belum? Dia tak dengar. Okay, Dr. Babatunde, you want another session? Shall we proceed to one Azlina presenter?
Okay, Azlina, examining the concept of livability in urban neighborhoods. Is Azlina there? Okay, if Azlina is not there, let's go to also the next presentation. Okay, Dr.
Aidatu.
Aidatu.
She's here.
Aidatu Bakri.
Yes.
Okay, is Aidatu here?
Okay.
Boleh. PDF itu ya.
Okay. We have Dr. Aidatu here. The role of sense of place in the revitalization of Heritage Street, the case of Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. I'm Dr. Fazlin Bakri from UITM, and my co-authors are Professor Mike Robinson from Nottingham Trent University, UK, Dr. Zalina Samadi from SFU UITM.
Recording stopped. And also Dr. Helen Benson from University of Birmingham, UK. So the title of my presentation today is the role of sense of place in the revitalization of Heritage Street, the case of Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia.
Dr. Aidatu, may I just ask?
Yes.
Whether your international co-author is here?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, continue.
Okay. So the designation of heritage site, including the World Heritage Site, which focuses on buildings and monuments, frequently belies the complexities of human interaction with these structures and how it changes over time. In the revitalization of Heritage Street, understanding sense of place is important as it represents a layering of histories, tangible heritage and also intangible heritage. Tangible or physical heritage tending to be more easily redirected than the more complex immaterial heritage, consisting of the expression of social practices, rituals, traditions and the like. So, sense of place broadly refers to the emotional attachment that local communities form with a particular environment, and it is frequently associated with the notion of distinctiveness. It is also referred to as place attachment, place identity, the spirit of place, genus loci, decidedness, and also topophilia. The sense of place also defines the community heritage. And according to McClinchy 2016, a sense of place in multicultural societies is individual, personal, intimate, simple, yet extremely complex. So, my study aims to examine the relationship between the local communities and the cultural heritage in Georgetown, World Heritage Site, Penang. And this research also considers the dynamic nature of heritage and city through the lens of space and place. So let me bring you to the site. The site is at Georgetown, which is the capital city of Penang, and it is situated at the northern side of Peninsula Malaysia. So it is also known as Tanjung Penaga, with reference to the spot on which Francis Light from the British East India Company first landed upon in 1786. It became a free trading port under British colonial system, and was especially known as a place for obtaining goods such as rubber, tin, coconut, spices, and as well as other resources. And the status as a trading port has attracted so many people around the world, for example, from China, India, Arab countries, Britain, and also Singapore, and some of whom have decided to stay on and make this Newfoundland a home. Georgetown has become a World Heritage Site in 2008, and the outstanding values that has been described on the designation is on its multicultural trading towns, a living testimony to the multicultural heritage, and also unique architecture, culture, and townscape, without parallel anywhere in East and Southeast Asia. Since the site is big, I'm just focusing on this one specific street called the Street of Harmony, or formerly known as Jalan Masjid Kapitan Keling. So this street was one of the original street where British established the commercial town, and it is known as a site that expressed the concept of religious harmony, religious pluralism, and diversity of culture in Penang. So from this map, you can see that this stretch of road consists of several places of worship, for example, church, Chinese temple, mosque, and also Hindu temple. And along this road are also rows of shop houses and also townhouses. And for example, this was previously the settlements for the Europeans, Chinese, Malay, and also Indians. So our focus upon this particular street presents a microcosm of a heritage community whose sense of place operates within the post-colonial and multicultural context. In terms of methodology, semi-structured interviews with 52 members of local communities and participant observation were used to find out how local communities use and feel about the place and its heritage. So my interviewees include, for example, workers, residents, representatives from places of worship, representatives from community-based organization, and also community leaders. Observation of the daily life in the street was also conducted to understand how unique and recurrent events and practices shape a sense of place at the street. So let's have a look at the findings. The Street of Harmony elicits a multi-layered emotional response that relates to its tangible and intangible heritage. So, sense of place can be explained by these 5 attributes: stewardship, attachment to place, sense of belonging, authenticity, and ownership. In terms of stewardship, as a World Heritage Site, the custodianship of the site is under the Department of National Heritage, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia. However, the day-to-day management is entrusted to Georgetown World Heritage Incorporated, or GTWHI, which also serves as a caretaker of the outstanding universal value. The Penang Island City Council, MEVP, is adhering to its legislative commitments to safeguard the OUV, and it is found that participation and empowerment of local communities could enhance a sense of place and ensure long-term stewardship. However, there is a concern on the vision of site, which is much focused on tourism, and by inserting community-based participation, it will influence decision making, okay, because it is the community's heritage and sense of place that makes the site and ensure its sustainability. Okay, in terms of place attachment, we discovered that there are 6 main processes that lead to a person becoming attached to a place. Okay, for example, sensory experience, narrative connection, historical connection, ideological connection, commodification, and also material dependence. In terms of sensory experience, the interviewees explain on what they see, okay, especially the tangible element, okay, including the places of worship, street performance, the smell, For example, the burning joss stick at Kuan Yin Temple, the smell of flowers at the flower garden stall, and also the smell of food, for example, the steamed rice with curry dishes. They also responded that they always hear the sound of azan or call for prayers from the mosque, and also sound of prayer bells from the temple. Feel and taste have not been really discussed by the interviewees. In terms of narrative attachment, so the place become meaningful when they have a narrative connection, including place names, oral histories, and also family history. One of the example is how Achin Street Malay Mosque was a meeting spot for Malays concerning Hajj heritage. And since the colonial period, pilgrims gathered at the site, and embarked on their sea voyage journey to Jeddah and then to Mecca. Interviewees also give some narrations on how Lebuh Aceh deteriorated as a hub for Hajj travel in 1970s, and later the decline of the Malay population in Georgetown due to development pressure. Another story is about the histories of trade, where the street was formerly known as Penang's Gold Bazaar due to its bustling gold trading and retail center. There was actually a revitalization project in 2005, but the initiative failed due to management issues. In terms of historical connection, it relates to history, significant life, and also community events. For example, an Indian Muslim community leader reflected his memories on the Maulud, the celebration of Prophet Muhammad's birthday. So it is actually being celebrated until today, but during that time it was so different, and he recounted on the unique celebration, including details on the flagpole, the serving of sweet flavoured drinks, the elderly Indians who play small drums, and so on. Okay. In terms of ideological connection, it is the idea on how to live in a place. Okay. And a resident of Indian Muslim youth leader told me how they are very proud of their Indian Muslim culture, and they are involved in presenting an oral history of on their website and on other materials like books and in seminars. Another perspective on living at the Street of Harmony is to consider the street as a place where people share common values. And the Journey of Harmony project, launched in 2014, if you can have a look at the image down there, was a collaborative effort between Think City and Urban Regeneration Organisation, ArtsEd, a community-based organisation, and also the local communities. So they found 4 shared elements to represent the site, which is a light, moon, flora, and also water. Yes?
I know that you're so passionate about this. You can continue like for another 15 minutes. But let's just give you 3 minutes to round up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in terms of commodifying, so certain people develop a commodifying connection to the streets. And for example, a bookshop owner explained on how the site is easily accessible, and he chose the place because it has a history of Malay publishing and also printing industry. In terms of material dependence also, it is where people are connected due to the material and social needs and desire about the place. And sense of place is also related to sense of belonging, where people are engaged actively in place-related activities. They will express a greater sense of belonging compared to those who are not. Okay, in terms of authenticity, so considering a site is a World Heritage Site, OUV has established a baseline for the site's value. So it is important for the management to maintain the OUV and looking at other values as well. So religious pluralism is evident in the place of worship. However, the street actually suffers from a displacement and population loss, which began in year 2000 with the repeal of Rent Control Act. Another component of sense of place is ownership over the place. And actually at the street, there are different distinct forces at work for various ethnic groups. For example, the Muslim minority community in Malaysia, the Indian Muslim, feel it is necessary to express their existence and contribution to the place. So some of them, they did not like the terms the Street of Harmony. It should be Jalan Masjid Kapitan Keling, Keling which represent the Indian Muslims. So there is some conflicts at that point as well. Ownership also refers to self-investment and accountability. It relates to administrative, social, political and economic issues. And while physical ownership is straightforward, discussing ownership of intangible elements is always challenging. So as a conclusion, the research demonstrates the complexities regarding the interaction between tangible and intangible heritage and how this relates to sense of place. Though it is the tangible heritage of Georgetown that has been recognized through its UNESCO World Heritage inscription, it is the intangible heritage which are more meaningful to the local communities that live there. As our work along the Street of Harmony has shown, it is in the intricacies and intimacies of intangible heritage practices and their authentic expression that local communities feel attached to and claim ownership of the place. The vast majority of our interviewees did not identify the site because of the grand narrative of the World Heritage Site, but rather because of the long-standing, everyday, tangible practices and performances which have become an integral part of their lives. The stronger the sense of ownership and appreciation of belonging to a place, the more likely it is that the local stakeholders will participate in its protection and management. The recognition of the value of the intangible, in addition to that tangible, is important lesson for planners and policy makers working on the management and the revitalization of the heritage site. This implies the development of new approaches to the site management which go beyond material concerns and embrace the rich diversity of the meanings and expressions that underpin living heritage. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Aidatu, for that presentation, which is on conservation and heritage management of a World Heritage Center. It's just that you didn't tell us exactly what year it became a World Heritage Center.
In 2008.
2008?
Yes.
All right, okay, 2008. I have a comment you said during your narrative that the people in the community did not talk about the feel and taste of the environment.
Yes.
Were they just allowed to discuss about their memories of the place? Were they guided at all during the interview or during your interaction with them?
It was a semi-structured interview, so of course there are some elaborations during the Q&A, but the question was more on how do you explain your connection with the place. So it goes from there, and when they describe, the findings found that they didn't say anything about feel and also what was it just now?
Taste. Okay, so there, and there was no need to like pose a question to them about it.
When I tried to it's not provoke but to ask, but they don't think it's important. What they are referring to is always on the smell, what they see, and also what they hear.
Okay. There seems to be a conflict between the tourism needs and the communal spirit. What do you think is really causing this tension? That is the most important thing that is causing the tension between the tourism needs and the communal spirit.
Okay, actually in Penang, the local communities are very strong. The sense of ownership, the sense of belonging is very strong. So they have Penang Heritage Trust, an NGO who's championing heritage, okay, and always be the representative of the local community. And of course, the location of the site is at urban areas. So urban areas means there will be a lot of pressure in terms of development. Some authorized groups are more focusing on tourism, economic development, and so on. So there's always clash of ideas and opinions. But in Penang, since the local community's voice are strong, and they have representatives, very strong representatives and heritage advocates, is always being the decision of the authorized groups are always being challenged. So it is good to see how the local communities participate. There's a lot of community projects, bottom-up approach being introduced, being done. So it's always good to see how local communities actually protect their own heritage.
Okay. Yeah, that means that the managers of the heritage have to really reckon with the participation of the community a lot.
Yes. Yes.
As part of making sure the sense of belonging or sense of place is higher and or remains the same as it was.
Yes. And I
think okay, you wanted to say something?
Sorry, and I think it's very challenging to balance up on the tourism aspects, the economic aspects, with what the local communities really want, because Georgetown has lost a lot of local populations, and due to the economic pressure, it is very sad to see a lot of the local people are leaving, and it's actually the local communities that makes the life of the place. But if they are leaving, so what's left there?
Okay, that's good. Dr. Wan, you have a question or a contribution to this heritage management thing? Dr. Wan, you can speak now.
I'm sorry. I think it was the last speaker, the last presenter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
No, thank you.
The last one. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Aidato,
yes.
Part of your conclusion is that there has to be empowerment,
yes,
of the local community, for them to have this better sense of place. How do you think they can empower the community?
Okay, Georgetown has done projects which involve local communities' participation in development of their project, but the level of participation is not very high. If you refer to Einstein ladder of participation, it's not until the steps of making decision yet, but it's there. The process is there, the participation is there, but not up to the level of making decision. So I think it's very important for the local community to be presented in the decision-making process. Not only participation at the lowest level, giving informations and so on, but to be given more opportunities to be involved in decision making, because it's their place after all.
Okay, so from the ordinary to the powerful, I still think deeper investigations about how they can really be involved, in the management of this World Heritage Center can still be an opportunity. Are there any other contributions or questions from the participants and conference attendees? If there's none, let's take another presentation. Is Miss Nadia Omar there? Thank you, Dr. Aidatu, for that insightful presentation. Thank you very much. All right, do we have another presenter?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, so who's the next presenter that's available?
Yeah, I'm the one who shall present. Let me share my slide.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, can you see my slide, Prof?
Yes, I can see it clearly. Please, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum and very good evening. I'm Nadia binti Omar, together with my two co-authors. Okay, Professor Madya Dr. Wan Liza, this is our international co-author, and also Nur Azlina Abdul Rauf. Okay, this is another co-author. So the topic here.
Let me just ask: is your international co-author there?
Yes.
Yes, Prof. Oh. I'm here. Thank you, Prof.
Oh, fantastic. That will be good. We're looking forward to your contribution. Okay, Ms. Nadia, you can continue.
Okay, so the topic I shall be presenting here is addressing offshore tax evasion, challenges in the rising of digitalization economy. Okay, let's see the introduction here. Evading taxes through offshore banks account is the most common way for tax evaders in the international landscape. So this study, in this study, we focus on a big issue on tax evasion, which is offshore tax evasion. Okay, so you can see here, countries worldwide have lost billions of dollars in tax revenue due to tax evasion on income from offshore bank accounts. So based on Tax Justice Network 2021, countries globally lose over 427 billion USD in tax every year, okay, for offshore tax evasion. Okay, and out of this value, okay, Malaysia, for Malaysia, Malaysia lose 1,378 million plus, okay, and out of this value, we can classify into two, which is tax abuse by multinational corporations, okay, 1 billion, okay, and also from private tax evaders, okay, about 330 USD million. Okay, so it shows that this is very critical issue, okay, relating to tax, okay, because it affects the revenue collection for Malaysia and also worldwide. Okay, so let's see the definition of tax evasion before we go further on this. tax evasion is defined by OECD as legal arrangement where liability to tax is hidden or ignored. Okay, it means the taxpayer pays less tax than he is legally obligated to pay by hiding income or information from the tax authorities. Okay, so the keyword here is hiding income. Okay, why they hide it? Because it means to avoid from being taxed. Okay, how about offshore tax evasion? Offshore tax evasion means a crime committed by deliberately evades paying tax by holding money and assets offshore. Okay, so that is the definition given by OECD. Okay, in fact, it is crucial to have a strong and efficient tax system, okay, to sustain tax collection. Okay, so this is for economic growth, sustainability of economic growth. Okay, so that's why it's very important to explore, and also to it means for Malaysia to reform the existing tax system. Okay, in fact, reform is needed from time to time. Okay, to ensure that our tax system is effective enough. Okay, so what is the objective and the research objective and research question? Objective here is to identify the loopholes in local regulatory framework relating to offshore tax evasion in comparison with UK and US. Okay, so why UK and US? Because both are they are anti-tax evasion. Okay, they have very significant development for relating to anti-tax evasion measures. Okay, so in order to achieve the objective here, the question to be asked is to what extent the regulatory framework in Malaysia relating to offshore tax evasion need for reform. Okay, next. Okay, the methodology used here, okay, is doctrinal comparative analysis. Okay, because doctrinal, because I'll go in detail analyzing the regulation, okay, the law and regulations relating to offshore tax evasion, okay, and to propose to see any loopholes and come up with a proposal to, it means to propose for reform. Okay, let's see global challenges in curbing offshore tax evasion. Okay, whereby we have 3 points.
Excuse me, you have about 3 minutes more.
3 minutes? Oh, okay. Okay, so here are the 3 points, okay, relating to challenges of to curb offshore tax evasion, whereby we have tax evasion, offshore financial center, as well as secrecy jurisdiction. So these 3 contributes towards facilitating for offshore tax evasion. Okay, so it's hard to, it means to curb offshore tax evasion because of the secrecy jurisdiction. Okay, okay. So here, this is a list of tax havens, okay, whereby here world's biggest private tax haven. Okay, so this becomes a big challenge, okay, to prevent offshore evasion, tax evasion, because of the tax havens. They provide very attractive tax regime for it means for foreign assets, okay, to hide their income, their assets. Okay, so let's the approaches by UK. So this is the it means what initiatives or measures taken by UK. So they have HMRC's 2014 No Safe Havens with supplement issued in 2019. They have a common reporting standard, okay, which whereby they sign, okay, for to make it easier for exchange of information between countries, okay, and also a requirement to correct RTC rule. So here this is to give the opportunity for those who evade tax, okay, to declare. Okay, then also we have two more, 166 of Finance Act and to be read together with Section 7 and 8 of Taxes Management Act. So these two make it compulsory to declare offshore assets. Okay. Okay, then how about US? Okay, these are all approaches taken by US, okay, in order to prevent, to curb, to minimize offshore tax evasion. Okay, whereby the most important is foreign bank financial accounts. Okay, whereby they need it means US taxpayer, they need to declare, okay, their foreign assets, their offshore assets, if it is more than 10K dollar. Okay, how about Malaysia? So the key provisions in Malaysia for tax evasion is 114 of Income Tax Act. Okay, but the biggest issue here is it's hard to prove the mental element, okay, for evading tax. That's why we don't have much hot case, okay, on tax evasion, because of it's hard to prove mental element, because Section 114 says willful evasion. Okay, so the term willful, it involves mental state, so it's very hard to prove. Then we also sign CRS, okay, for exchange of information. And also another one is Malaysia we adopt a territorial tax system instead of worldwide taxation. That's why it means that we don't tax foreign assets, okay, is outside our Malaysia jurisdiction, exempted from taxation. Okay, so it becomes it means in a way it facilitates evading tax because of the exemption. Okay, so this is the case study whereby recently International Consortium for Investigative Journalists and Partners, they reveal Pandora Papers, okay, whereby it shows apparent tax evaders, okay, whereby these papers identified 956 companies in offshore havens tied to 336 high-level politicians and public officials, including country leaders, okay, and these include Malaysians, okay, whereby we do have Malaysians, it means those important figures also listed here, okay, whereby it shows it means also can be related to offshore tax evasion. But the thing is, it's, as I said, it's hard to prove the mental state, okay, because it must be proved that the willful evasion. Okay, so findings and conclusion here. The key points for Malaysia to consider are converting from territorial tax system to worldwide taxation, together with implementation of Foreign Account Act Compliance Act, Account Tax Compliance Act. Okay, as what I explained previously. Okay, then adopting foreign bank and financial account for annual declaration. Okay, it means if you have any asset outside, you need to declare every year annually. Okay, if it exceeds 10K, and also adopting foreign bank and financial account. The third one, establishing a special division for coordinating foreign account taxation. Okay, this is very important. Okay, especially in this digital era. Okay, so we need one special division to coordinate. Okay, then also implementing a more vigorous attitude towards prosecuting tax evaders. Okay, so by that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Nadia, for that presentation. Which department are you based?
Law department.
Okay, you are in the law department.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, I was going to say that this issue has both law, economics, and political science inputs. And it is critical for you to involve the political scientists when you want to think about tax evasion, you know, but it's okay, because I see that you have looked at it with the legal perspective, kind of, you know, having legislation and the likes. But of course, you know that a lot of these things are politically determined, and public officials and politicians that and businessmen, big businessmen that are at the forefront of tax evasion are actually in a position to legislate and make laws. And often in the developing world, they actually refuse to do so because they don't actually want to stop the tax evasion. That's why I was, you know, for example, if you look at the level of formal activities, business activity in the economy, in relation to the informal, you might begin to have an idea of whether digitalization will actually help with controlling this matter of tax evasion. I wonder what your co-author has to say about this.
Thank you, Prof. I totally agree with regards to digitalization, if I may. In fact, Nadia mentioned that one of the key takeaways that we propose is the shift from the territorial system to the worldwide, and that is because in recent reports in United States, there are 2 trillion using the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and also the Ethereum to shield away as tax evaders. And hence, in the paper, we hope we can propose a blockchain technology application so that, as you said, it is actually the key players are the businesses. So the blockchain technologies being decentralizations and permissionless and multi-center platform would allow tracking and when VAT have been paid or any taxes have been paid or any fraud has been incurred or happened. And the blockchain technology also assists a multiple platform for bilateral cooperation between multinational authorities to oversee tax fraud or tax evasion, particularly in offshore market. And I think Nadia have clearly explained in the 4th recommendation where she mentioned there will be an increase of regulatory, and we thought what better way to counter when you can't stick to the traditional method or the legacy traditional method method. So we hope the paper will highlight on the digital measures to combat the tax evasion. And one of the proposal would be the blockchain technology, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, that's very interesting, because that brings to the fore again the multidisciplinary approach to this problem that needs to be adopted in the long run. So because by the time you're proposing the blockchain technology, you're also trying to involve maybe people in computer science, people in software engineering.
Yes, Prof. Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that you mentioned with regard to the political science. I thought that's a very good area that we should also look upon, as the the main perpetrators are from the political scene, and I thought that's a good intake, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. So how are you taking this study to the next level?
We are, Prof. Inshallah, we will look at the digitalization of the measures to enhance regulatory, and also look at the sharing economy now that's happening, and hope to have multiple task authorities to not to move away from the sectorisms or commercialisms of their enforcement method, and more forward towards a global enforcement.
Okay, that's interesting. Are there any other contributors to this very interesting paper that seeks to protect developing economies from capital flight in form of tax evasion, Okay, Nadia, do you want to say something else?
I also think we can relate this issue with corruption, right?
Okay.
Those political, it means politicians, okay, it means when it involves corruption, okay, and it means it increases the case of tax evasion, and also they refuse to facilitate. It means to introduce a law to it means relating to tax evasion, okay, because they have it means conflict of interest there. So maybe we can relate with corruption as well.
All right, thank you very much. Any other contributors? Someone is raising hand again. Is Dr. Lisa? Dr.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't. I have lowered the thing. I'm sorry.
Right. All right, thank you very much. Do we have any other presenters?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I missed my session 4:20 just now.
Okay.
All right.
So you want to do a fast one? What are you presenting?
Okay, presenting on the topic of household accounting.
On what?
Household accounting, case study of Johor State.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Plus.
Okay. All right. All right. That's Dr. Razia.
They said host disable participant screen sharing. Is it? So I cannot share.
Oh, you cannot share your screen?
It's written there. Okay, I try to share screen and then, okay, now only can. Okay, so sorry.
All right.
Okay, just now it's disabled, I think. Okay, can.
Okay, household accounting, a case study of Johor State. Yeah, we've seen.
Okay.
Okay, you have 10 minutes to do it as fast.
No, I can. All right.
Sorry, hold on. Please, you have 7 minutes.
All right. Okay. Never mind. So I skip all the literature part. I will skip. I will pay attention on the problem. Okay. Right. As we know, during the inflation, we do have problem with managing household income and expenditure. Okay, so and in fact, this year, I think towards the end of this year, we can see the impact is more serious or devastating than at the start of the pandemic. Right, so the purchasing power have decreased during inflation, and as well as during the pandemic, you know, because of the economic downturn, because of unemployment. Okay, so we think that as in accounting itself, household accounting is a topic that is yet to be recognized. Okay, so we are going to study, we studied just one state in Malaysia. So we have 13 states, so we only studied one state, that is Johor. The information, the objective is first to know the knowledge of household accounting among the people in Johor. Johor is one of the state in Malaysia. We have 13. So Johor is the southern part of it. Okay, so we want to investigate how does this household manage their income and consumption. Okay. So I think I just need to go through very fast about the literature. Okay. First, right, we talk about household accounting has been used before as an instrument for restraining consumption. Okay. Next, just to restrain consumption at the beginning. Okay. Right. This pattern of spending among those households is actually an important role to maintain the sustainability of the household. Okay. Right. So Chai 2018 conclude that the changes in the industrial composition of growing economies and the changes in household demand essentially work together. Okay. As when income increase, the spending pattern increase. So people will spend more out from the basic need. So this will directly impact on the growth of economy, especially in manufacturing and service industry. There's actually a positive relationship. Okay, so the study use secondary data. We are using the data that we obtained from the Statistical Department of Malaysia for Johor State. This is a study made or the data that has been collected in 2019 before the pandemic started. So it is very good if we are going to proceed to see the after impact of the pandemic. All right, so due to the different social economy in different states of Malaysia, the next level of the study, I moved to that first because I think I don't have much time. Okay, we are going to analyze each of the state, but now we start off with Johor State first because it falls under the second place after Wilayah Persekutuan Labuan. Okay. Right, so it is actually only descriptive analysis. So we use mean to determine the pattern for household income. Okay, this household income, okay, see, so this is the result of the analysis that we obtained from the statistical department. Okay, we compared between three groups, B40, M40, T20. B40 is the group where has been defined as a lower income group. M40 is the middle income group, and T20 would be the upper level of income group. So B40, if you look here, B40 income is less than 4 4,000 ringgit Malaysia. Okay, household income, whereby when they pool all the income by whoever is living in the house, okay, but whereby M40 is between 4,000 plus until 10,100 or 200, and T20 will be above that, above 10,200 ringgit Malaysia. We're talking in ringgit Malaysia. Okay. Now, the spending by each of this group. Okay, so I think
you have about 2 minutes more.
All right.
Give us the summary of the
summary. Okay, spending mostly the first rank is on house, water, electricity, gas, and fuel, and then go for food, transport, and then restaurant and hotel. Okay, what we are a bit like that attract our attention is the amount spent for group B40 in each of these group of expenses is actually higher as compared to M40 and T20. So there are other factors that need to be analyzed. Why does B40 spend more as compared to M40 and T20? Okay, so when they are actually earning less, right? So one of the reason could be because of B40 group is normally the youngsters, those who a majority of them, those who just started working, started building up families, so they might have more members in the household as compared to M40 or T20, especially because T20 is a more more established household. Okay, so one of the reason that we could contribute or we could conclude from might be the number of households, person in the household that contribute to the expenditure higher. Okay, and highly likely is the age when they started to work, when they are at the early stage of working life. Of course, we do understand the pay is lower as compared to as time goes by and more experience gained by this household.
So can you move to your conclusion?
Yeah, all right. So it shows that across the three groups, the highest consumption is by the group B40, the lower income, on household, the rent, the food, okay, the basic need. Okay, and then need to be highlighted that this study only limit on the household income and consumption of Johor State only. It is secondary data, and we have planned to further the study into other states to make a comparison, and then to study in depth the other factor, okay, that contribute to the consumption pattern. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Razia, for that presentation.
Yeah.
Did you have any other collaborator?
Here no. I think today, this afternoon, all my fellow members in the group is not here.
Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
All right. Well, you only highlighted the higher amount being spent on housing and the others. I think that you need to look into all the other expenditure to the groups and account for why one group might spend more than the other in the different sectors. You know,
I understand that.
Yes, all those needs, you you need to go much further, you know. Of course, because housing and food is so important. I guess that's why you're focusing on them, right? Do you have any other comments?
It actually have a 12 group of expenses or spending pattern. Okay, spending group. Okay, so the first is housing, water, electricity, and then food and non-alcoholic beverages. This is basic. Transport is basic as well. Okay, so these three is the basic expenditure or spending, and I think is most important by each of the group. Okay, so we understand. I think everybody understand. If you look at the rank of spending from the most important until the last, but one thing that is quite concerned to us is the spending on health and education, because, well, it falls to number 9 for health and education number 12. But education is the least important.
All right. It's also important to study intensively the socioeconomic characteristics of these households.
Yeah,
so,
I agree that.
So it's not just about the number of the people or even their income. It includes many other things, you know.
Yeah.
Like even their composition, or even the rate at which they spend money. It might be that they buy in small units and the other higher income groups buy in bulk, you know. Having lower rates in buying things in bulk and all that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do we have other contributions from presenters and other authors? If there are no other contributions, I'll say that it's been a great breakout session with all you presenters, and interesting papers there have been, and papers that go along, you know, with the theme of the conference on the quality of life. So we hope to see you next time, you know, with better papers and with better collaboration with international researchers, and making sure that our international participants also come onto the conference. So thank you very much.